There is a tremendous amount of believers that have no idea that God flows in seasons. And those that do understand that God flows in seasons typically have no idea what season they're in, which is causing frustration because they're not getting the full harvest for their efforts. Listen, I heard this message by Pastor Sam Hamstra, a church that's based out of Indiana called Anthem. Listen, the message was called Right on Time. It blessed me and I want to share it with you. So I'm going to be going through some of the segments of that message, but the link to the full message will be in the description. Go over there, support them. Big up to Anthem Church. And now I want to go forward with what I want to share with you guys with his message called Right on Time.
A young preacher told me no one responds when I preach. I told him you got to work on your timing, your rhythm, your pace. Timing is everything. You can be right about what you say, but wrong about when you say it. It's not just having the right idea, it's having the right idea at the right time. Let me give you a case study. There's a restaurant called Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. You know, when Colonel Sanders started that, it was when women started going into the workplace for the first time, and he not only had a good idea, he had it at the right time. It was a meal they could bring home and eat around a table.
That's key, what he said right there. Not just having a right idea. I think many people understand, for example, God may call them to marry a specific person. I believe God, this is my wife, this is my husband. And that may be true, but sometimes a person may not be where they should be to be your wife or be your husband. They still got to go through a maturation process. So though you may be picking up that that's your husband or wife, that don't mean it's the right time to marry them. I remember having this ability to teach. And I remember people telling me while I was in church, oh man, you're going to be a great pastor one day. And I really struggled with that because it was like I enjoyed teaching, but I never saw myself as a pastor. I never saw myself having a church. It made me feel uneasy. And I didn't have peace when I thought about it, but I didn't know what to do with my gift at the same time. So I was considering it. The funny part of that is I believe God called me for such a time as this. YouTube didn't have the platform, or it wasn't the platform that it is now. So I could have went forth and tried to teach, but guess what? I would have been doing it in vain because I know God called me to do it in this era on this platform, YouTube being one of those platforms. And it's interesting, sometimes we jump out of there, but the platform that God wanted to use to propel us, not even prepared. All right, let's get back to the message.
One of the hardest things about times and seasons, what I want to start here, I'm going to end with good, but start with the hard thing. I want to remind you is that seasons are not yours to control. They're yours to steward.
Very good point there. He says that we can't control the seasons, but we can control how we steward it. It makes me think about me living out here in Chicago. When I see that weather change, when I see the fall, where fall time is and it's getting cold, I start bringing in my patio furniture. If I want to put up Christmas lights, I try to find me a warm fall day to put up those Christmas lights outside so I won't get caught in that winter trying to be putting up lights in my hands, not feeling my hands, and I'm ineffective in my efforts, or it's taking more time and I'm uncomfortable doing something. And I think because sometimes we plow into seasons because we know we have a gift, we know we have an ability, we know we can start a business, but not being in the right pocket of time, we cause ourselves to labor more harder than we ought to. This actually makes me think about marriage as well. Sometimes I feel like we get married prematurely, and people say that first 5 years is just the most roughest part of marriage. But I believe a part of that is because of a lack of maturation. I believe that both souls have not matured. And I'm not saying that you're like waiting is not going to let you have problems. I think waiting and maturing allows you to have less problems and understand what the real problems are and not focusing on little petty, minute things because there's just immaturity in the soul. And I think that's hard for people to identify in the moment because they know that they supposed to be with a person, but don't understand that they may have been doing it a little early.
We live in Chicagoland. We can easily, for the most part, discern what season you're in by looking at our surroundings. When the leaves turn, we know it's fall. When the rain comes, we know it's spring. When the cold winds blow, we know it's winter. When the sun comes up early, it's warm out, we know it's summer. We know what season it is by the signs, right? So the question is, do you know what season you're in spiritually? How do you know what season you're in. You need to know your time. You need to know the season. In the earth, there's 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. Solomon, though, goes on in Ecclesiastes and gives us a bunch of different seasons. Ecclesiastes 1, he says there's a season for everything. Then he gives us some times and seasons. In Ecclesiastes 3 and 2, he says there's a time to be born and a time to die. There's a time to plant, a time to pluck up what is planted. A lot of people know when to plant, but a lot of people don't know what to take up. There's a time to kill, a time to heal. There's a time to break down. There's a time to build up. There's a time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. My wife tried to use that on me one day. She said, there's a time to refrain. I said, no, that's not the Lord. Seeing if you guys are paying attention. There's a time to gain and a time to lose. There's a time to keep and a time to throw away. There's a time to tear, a time to sow. I wrote this one down, circled this for myself. There's a time to keep silence and a time to speak. There's a time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, a time of peace. There's a lot of different seasons. Do you know what time it is?
It's funny that he's saying this. Do you know what season you're in? Because I think oftentimes part of our issues with people and relationships, why they go bad, is that we know that something has to be addressed, and we get so caught up in addressing the issue that we never take time to say, is this the right time to speak? Is this the right time to challenge someone? Is this the right time to voice my opinion? Because I think about this. I would pray about something. I would ask God about something. And sometimes God takes weeks, months, and sometimes even years to get back to me. He always gets back to me, but it's typically never when I expect him to or when I want him to. And it took me years to understand the reason why God does not always get right back to me, because God always get back to me when I'm receptive. He always speak to me about a matter when I can receive it, when I'm calm, when I'm in a place to think about and ponder on and to receive what he's trying to tell me. And I think we need to be that way as well. It's a lot of different seasons to do things, but when we take time to pray and say, God, when should I challenge this person? When should I voice my opinion? The Bible says, if you acknowledge me in all your ways, I will direct your path. Wait, let me ask you a question. Has this channel or the message you watch taught you, convicted you, or blessed you? I'm asking that you pay it forward by taking a few seconds out of your day, hitting like, leaving a comment, and activating the bell notification. It initiates the YouTube algorithm to spread this message to someone else. By simply taking a few seconds out of your day, hitting like, leaving a comment, it may be the very thing that changed someone's life. And if you're one of those people that say, I don't leave comments, I don't even know what to put in the comment section, just put the truth. Jesus is Lord.
When God says rest, we try to make things happen. And anybody ever get that word, rest? It seems unproductive. Aren't we supposed to be pressing forth at all times and doing everything we can? In a word, no. It's your obedience God blesses, not your effort. Clock it.
This man said, it's your obedience God bless, not your effort. That is one to hold on to, because I know a lot of people have not got what they thought they were due. I've done the work. I live the holy life. I line up. I love God. I love his people. But why isn't things happening for me? Why haven't I come out of this particular season? Because sometimes we could be so preoccupied with doing the right thing, we're not even settling down to ask God, what should I be doing? What should I be doing this season? What do you require of me this season? Because if you've never heard God say, do nothing, rest, sit down, God has that season for everyone where he puts you in the wilderness like Jesus in Luke 4. And it's not about ministry. It's not about touching people's lives. It's about him pruning you. It's about him getting you to understand how deep your roots go in him, how deep you love him. He wants to see how committed you are when no one's watching. There will be that season where he's forming you, developing you, growing you in the basement when no one's looking. And if you haven't had that season, or God hasn't took you to that season, I guarantee you that you're not listening. And so what I'm trying to get you guys to understand, and it took me a while to understand, is sometimes obedience doing nothing, and I do mean nothing, or what appears to be ineffective or not working towards your goal, will yield more results than you going out there and grinding. Because God honors obedience over effort. But the key is how do we home in to hear God's voice of what we should be doing that season? We'll talk a little bit more about that in this message.
So let's look at a cycle of a seed to help you discern what season you're in. Let me break this down. First is spring. Somebody say spring. Spring is a time of planting and fresh beginnings. Anybody like fresh beginnings? It's a time of planting. Now, we like the new start. Spring is a time of starting things. But don't miss this. Planting is a season of starts. But before anything grows, it gets planted. Sometimes we try to miss this. When you're planted, it feels like you're buried. There are seasons when God hides you. It's seasons where you feel overlooked. But planting is not punishment, it's preparation. Springtime represents seasons of surrender, where you can't pull yourself out of the ground. You got to stay buried so that seed can crack open, for unless a seed dies, it won't multiply. Early spring, then, is a time of pruning. You guys don't hear a lot about this preach in church. Like we talk about it's harvest season. Anybody get happy? You're in a time of pruning. But it's seasons of cutting away and cutting back. Cutting away of things that are holding you back. Habits, routines, relationships. Here's what you can expect for all the seasoned saints. Listen, the more mature a plant is, the deeper it is pruned back. What does that mean? The longer you've been following the Lord, the deeper you are. Here's what you can expect. When God prunes you, he gets really close to what's on your heart.
The longer you walk with Christ, the narrower the road becomes. Can't get my words right here. The more narrow that road becomes, the more things God require of you, the more there probably won't be people close to you, because you are drawing close to God. And this is the one thing I realized too. The closer you get to God, the weirder you become to people. Trust me when I say this. You become more peculiar because you're starting to exhibit more of his habits, more of his mindset, more of his heart. And now you look extreme. See, to a generation that has normalized being a lukewarm Christian, when you're on fire for God, you're a weirdo. You're an outcast. It don't take all that. And so just keep that in mind. This road does not get more broad. It gets more narrower, and he begins to prune more, take things that's not like him from you.
For everybody that's in pain, I want you to embrace the flint of that knife cutting back and lean into Jesus a little bit more. Why? Because what's next, God is saying not everybody can come with you. You can't bring everything into the next season where you're at right now. God is about to do something in your life. Somebody say amen.
Your life.
Then you have summer, a time of growth, a time of nurturing. Summer is a season of development where roots are growing down. God will stretch you, he'll strengthen you. In these times of summer, growth is slow, it's quiet. Here's why, because if you grow too fast, you won't last. So God gets you rooted. God will take time. I was asking the Lord, well, what season is our church in? I thought, surely, Lord, we're in a harvest season. And I was praying, and the Lord whispered back to me. I heard this pretty loud. He said, when you're in harvest, you'll know it. When you're in harvest season, you won't have to ask if you're in harvest season. You'll know harvest season. And then the Lord said, you're in the summer. You're in growing season. That's why you feel pain. Can I tell you why some of you feel uncomfortable right now? Because the Lord is stretching you. He's growing you. Fall. We all love a season of harvest. It's a season of harvest and reflection. It's a time of visible fruit. Anybody love harvest season? Blessing, opportunity. In practical terms, it's when you see God's promises breaking forth in your life. And then sometimes what we miss is there is no planting, there's no pruning, there's none of this without winter. Now, a lot of times in Chicagoland, we complain about winter. I want to encourage you to embrace this season. It's a time for rest, evaluation, of preparation for the upcoming season. This is a season for renewal after harvest, where the field rests, the soil recovers. This isn't about losing momentum, it's about getting ready. Let me say that again. It's not about losing momentum, it's about getting ready. I sense the Lord is taking us into a short winter season as a church, where we're going to catch our breath. Why? Because God is about to move in such a way we need to be ready.
There's one thing when he talk about Chicago right after New Year's, a lot of us has been to Chicago all our lives. We take a deep breath because it's like, whew, financially, I can recover. This is a resting period for my money too. After Christmas and Thanksgiving and all the holidays, New Year's, you can rest. And you take those January, February, and March to stack bread and re-up for whatever your next goal is for the spring and summertime. And that's so naturally, but spiritually, it can be the exact same thing, that maybe you're not going as hard in ministry. Maybe you're not going as hard in whatever business you're doing. This may be a season of recalibrating, a season of reevaluating the progress you had, or what's the next step. When spring come, what are we going to do next? And I think that season is very important and is downplayed because everybody wants to grind and be a hustler. I got to chase a bag. And that's not healthy. That's not even healthy for soil. Soil needs a season like winter just to do nothing, just to kind of gain its strength back and start all over again. So if it's not good for nature, it's not good for you either.
Seasons are linear. Cycles are circular. A cycle is something that keeps on going round and round in a circle. So what you should be asking yourself, if you keep on experiencing the same thing, call it what it is. It's not a season, it's a cycle. And God came today to break your cycle.
Now, I want to elaborate when he says cycle, what that means. You can use the children of Israel as a good example of this. God had basically saved them and redeemed them from Egypt. And he has this journey from Egypt to the promised land that took somewhere around 2 weeks to get there. However, the children of Israel never arrived there until 40 years later. So how did a 2-week journey become 40 years long? And we do this too, because this is the thing. God is not like the public school system that's just going to push you through because you get older. God requires character. And he will not take you to the next glory until you have the character, the obedience, learn the lesson, or allow him to uproot something that's not like him from you. He will not advance you until he gets what he wants from you. And this is how you know when you're in a cycle, when you keep seeing something repeat itself. I'll use myself for an example. I remember I just kept having bad boss after bad boss at work. And I kept having this happen to me because even though they were a bad boss, they kept bringing bad qualities out of me. They wasn't bringing them. What was in me was coming out. And so I kept trying to defend myself. I kept trying to argue with the person. I kept going to the union. I'm going back and forth with these people. And God was like, you still haven't learned. You still haven't humbled yourself. You still haven't learned how to trust me in this. And you still want to fight your battle and not allow me to fight it. So guess what? Okay, another boss come in, you got another job. That boss is not a good boss to you until you learned your lesson. And I remember something. I'm going to share this with you guys. This is when I finally broke this cycle's back. I remember I had a boss that mistreated me. And she mistreated me so bad, she suspended me for something that I always did, that she know I did. But because I was no longer in her good grace, she suspended me, and it made me angry. And God started dealing with my heart and told me to be extremely kind and go that extra mile on your job. And I'm just like, for what? Why am I going this extra mile no matter what I do? And I'm arguing with God. And I finally caught myself and said, do you want to break this cycle? Or do you want to repeat this all over again for another 5 years? Because you could be in a cycle decades in one aspect of your life. Now, listen, I'm not saying you're not saved. What I'm saying, in this aspect, you refuse to grow. And so you're going to continue to stay at the second grade in this area of your life. You could thrive in other areas, but in this one area, you just seem to just repeat yourself. You see the same things happening. Well, long story short, for this particular situation with me, I just decided to hunker down and go 110% on my job, be extra kind to this woman, do what she asked me to do, and even go above what she was asking me to do. And it took a couple of years of me doing this consistently. And I saw her perspective of me change. I saw her start talk to me about her personal life. Next, she started giving me extra assignments. All of a sudden, she wasn't double checking my work. And all of a sudden, she was ready to promote me. Now, this is the most interesting thing. She's at a place where she's ready to promote me. And now God provides me with a promotion outside of that department. And so I graduated. I finally broke this habit of arguing and going back and forth with bosses because of my lack of humility. But this was the key, though, of it all, though. God says when a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with them. And God had allowed this woman to make peace with me. We had peace. And the funny part is I told her about the promotion and she's telling me stuff like, hey, if you get over there and it's not working, you can come back here. You always got a place here. We really enjoyed you. We appreciated you. And it felt good. Even though I didn't take her up on that offer, I went ahead and moved on to where God had me. But it felt good for her not wanting to let me go, considering where our relationship started. So that's just one example. You'll see just repeats in your life because you haven't learned something, or you refuse to obey, or you're caught up in your own stubborn ways. In addition to this, y'all, I have a message called God's Cycle. I'll leave it at the end of this message. If you want to watch that message, it will bless you big time about exactly this, what God's cycle looks like. Now, listen, if this message has blessed you, show some love to Anthem Church. Go into the description section and watch the whole message. Big ups to them for sharing this message. But I'm hoping that something I said or Pastor Hamstra said, bless you guys. Hey, stay tuned. We're going to be right here and always ready to say what the church won't say.